Phil Jeffords, how you doing, man?
I'm good, brother. Glad to be here, man. How are you? I'm
Oh man,
excited.
and this is good. This is gonna be a good conversation.
Looking
Um,
forward to it.
and I'm excited to chat with you today and to really just dive in on your journey.
Okay.
Right, we're gonna dive a little bit in
Okay.
on your journey as well, but then we're
Okay.
gonna talk.
Okay.
We're gonna have a conversation about some interesting topics we talked about a little earlier today because it was crazy. It was crazy, and the people got to hear this, man. This is gonna be massive. But just give just real quick, just a little bit of background on yourself a little bit, like where where you originally from?
Okay. That's a good way to start. Like I said, I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity. So a lot of people don't know this, but I'm from Central America, Honduras to be exactly. I was born in a city called San Pedro Sula. For all my Latinos out there, catrachos, right? Gotta
Yeah.
represent. And I made my family. We made the move to the USA when I was 13 years old. And it wasn't easy, right? It was a decision my parents made to to give us a better opportunity. It's something that I never really took for granted, and that's why we're here, right?
Mm.
So made the move when I was 13 years old. We came to North Hollywood. We ended up, I mean, what's not to like in the USA, right? Coming from a third world country. We fell in love with the place, and I ended up, my mom ended up selling her house, her car, and then we ended up making the move permanently to the USA.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Now, did you know the language, or when you moved a little bit? How was that
You know what?
transition?
We were fortunate. We went to a private school. My brother and I, because my younger brother wasn't born yet, and we were taught English and Spanish from like day one.
Oh wow.
So we're from the islands of Honduras, which are primary language is English. So we had to learn Spanish, right?
Mm.
So it's a bit of a cultural difference there.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I would have never thought that.
yeah.
Okay, you learn something every day, yo.
Yeah. That's right.
Wow. Okay. So um, coming here from Honduras. Now you're here,
Yeah,
right?
we're here, baby.
So, in what age was that when you?
I was 13.
So 13. Okay, so 13. So now new country, new set of friends, and new setup, new environment. What was that really like? Was it a culture shock? What was that
It
like?
was a huge culture shock.
Okay.
Um, I remember my first day in school, the segregation with kids, and not segregation in terms of it was mandatory, but they just are different groups,
Mm,
right? And that was very different for me because I wasn't used to seeing that. You know what I mean? So I remember, we had lunch or whatever you want to call that, and everyone had their own like groups, right? And I didn't really know where to fit in. You know what I'm saying?
mm.
I didn't quite know where to fit in. I don't know if I should hang with my Latino people, with my brothers and sisters. You know what I'm saying? I
Oh
really
yeah.
didn't know.
Whoa.
So there was that
Wow.
experience. That was a culture shock for me. I did not expect that. That's something that no one talks about that happens in the USA. You see what I'm saying?
Whoa.
Like
Oh yeah.
it's never that conversation you'll have.
Oh my
So that was
goodness.
huge. That
Yeah.
was huge. But once I learned, why that happened, it wasn't of a racial thing. It was more of who you were comfortable with hanging around.
Yeah.
So once I learned that, I was okay. I could do this. All right, so then I just started picking and choosing who I want to hang around with. So that was kind of easy.
Wow.
But it was
Okay.
the issue was a culture shock.
And especially now, knowing you, especially in business and now personally too, but
Yeah,
in business, man, it's just wild because I would have, in just having a conversation with you, I would have never known like you're fluent in I would have just never known,
yeah,
right? Which is wild. But so now let's fast forward a little bit,
hmm
right? So let's fast forward a little bit to now entering adulthood.
Okay.
Entering
Okay.
adulthood, what was like your first career, first job? Like what was that like? What
Oh
was your first
man.
career, first job?
One thing I tell you when I was in high school, senior year, maybe 11th of my senior year, I knew that college was coming around the corner, and I was very aware of the cost, very aware of the cost of school, which took me aback because back home, you know, you could go to school for free. So were we prepared to pay 45, 50,000 bucks a year for college? Absolutely not. We probably were in the USA 5 years, immigrant parents, right? So that wasn't a reality. So I was very aware. What that did for me was it increased a sense of urgency of I had to do something, right? So I remember just coming out of school and trying to find a part-time job. If I could just help towards that tuition, I would be okay.
This is coming out of high school.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because we didn't have a credit. It's just, I could not apply for student loans. And then I learned that game. I was like, I didn't want that anyway. So it was always a sense of urgency to make it happen. But I think where that comes from is I know the sacrifice it took to get us here, and I didn't want to disappoint anybody, specifically my parents. Right. So that weighed on my shoulders. Me being the oldest of three, I had to set a path. Right. So there was always that dynamic happening in my head. And I just wanted to make things happen. So one of my first career paths, a lot of people don't know this, but I sold cars at Miller Honda in Clover City. Shout out to my people out there. Right.
Yeah.
And
I love it.
You know, it was fun. I had a lot of fun doing it. I learned a lot, but it kind of gave me it gave me a taste of success relatively fast.
Elaborate on that. All right, so taste of success, selling Hondas, which car sales. It's sales. Doggy, you know what I'm saying? We got to get after it, right? You know, you eat what you kill, right? You know, so
100%.
So your first taste of success, and you said something that was very interesting, especially that stuck out to me. So I'll get to the cars in a second, but coming from Honduras, you said the sacrifice that your parents made in coming to the United States, you didn't want to disappoint them.
100%.
Right? So for a lot of folks that are listening to this come from, born here probably in the U.S., the majority of the folks are, at least here in the United States. But coming from another country, understanding that mindset of a lot of folks that may immigrate to the United States, understanding that mindset of folks, that's just that's.
You know, I can't tell you that all of us immigrants share the same mindset. I can't speak for everyone, but for myself, that was something that weighed heavily on me. Now, was that conditioning? Did my parents do a good job at putting that in the back of my mind? Perhaps, I don't know, but I could just tell you how it felt, right? Yeah. And every decision that I made was based on that action, right? So, is this decision in alignment with me not failing or taking advantage of the opportunity the U.S. has to offer? So when you have that type of conviction, it's hard to not make something happen. You know what I mean?
That's very interesting because a lot of folks that inherently have I'm trying to think of that. If you inherently have something, you don't realize the benefit until it's taken away. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's like if you grew up with shoes or grew up with socks, you don't realize what it's like to not have socks and shoes. Right. Until somebody that hasn't had socks and shoes at one point in their life, they understand the benefit and the blessing of having socks and shoes.
So that's just one thing I'll tell you to your point is that I never quite understood why certain people that I grew up with were very lackadaisical. I just couldn't understand that. I was like, hey, you guys, you were born in the land of opportunity. Why are we not after it? Why am I pursuing it faster or harder than you? It doesn't make any sense to me. And it never did. You know what I mean? So to your point, and that's something that, we have to work through with people in our community. But there's something about not having something and given an opportunity, you're going to exploit it to the max. And hopefully you're exploiting that in a positive way.
Ooh, realizing opportunities, understanding that it's there. That's big. All right, so now we're at Honda.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're at Honda. First taste of success. So give us the experience of the first taste of success.
People that know me, I probably came and changed a spare tire, but I sold a lot of cars. That's funny. It was a friend of mine, and actually I spoke to him today. And he saw that I was very hungry. He introduced me to what he was doing, and he's like, "Hey, I don't know where this can lead to, but here's an opportunity, and this is what it's doing for me, right? And perhaps it could help you on your journey." I was like, "Okay, I'm looking for an opportunity. Let's get it, right?" So we went there, got an interview. I was hired. I was given a shot, and on my first day, maybe it was beginner's luck, I sold a car. Very late night. I mean, Jesus.
First day.
First day, yeah.
Of course.
I didn't do much. I just, I spoke to the client and I passed it on to my manager, and he did. The rest was done. So, but what it proved to me was that, okay, it kind of expanded my horizons. It stretched my vision, because where I was looking for an opportunity at, let's say, a fast food restaurant for minimum wage, here I am in something that I have no idea what I'm doing, right? By just sheer will. And it happens that on my first day, I had to prove the result, right? So, and then subsequently, I think I went off to sell a car a day or two a day, something like that.
Yeah. Which is
broke some records.
not the norm
no,
for most folks. But when you say a car or two a day, right? And folks that know Phil, man, I'm telling you, this guy's a beast in a lot of ways, man. But for a car or two a day, for someone that doesn't know much about cars,
yeah, nothing at all.
Oh my goodness!
I can put the key in the ignition, drive it, reverse it.
But it's a mindset.
It absolutely is a mindset. I mean, and if I ever tried to say it's not a mindset, I would be going back on my experiences, because I had no idea I didn't even know the different models that we sold. I really didn't. I had no idea. I didn't know the inventory that was coming in. I had no idea the inventory was on the floor. I had none of that. All that was taught. But I did know that I wanted to do something, right? The sheer will. Sheer will. So I didn't have a client base. Most of the people that came to that particular establishment, they've been in business for a long time. They had a book of business, so they would call the clients, and either they went from Toyota to Honda, they would trade those cars in and move the clients from different manufacturers. But I had none of that. So you figure, if that's not the case and you can still be successful at something, it taught me a big lesson. Just go for it, man.
Just go for it.
Be coachable, as I'll tell you. You got to listen. You got to listen.
Oh my goodness. Coachability.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
It's everything.
Doesn't matter what stage in life you are. You got to be coached. I mean, look at Jordan. You know what I mean? He'll still be able to be coached.
Why? That's interesting. And a lot of folks, they may get to a certain level of success and they might rest on the laurels of past successes. But if they're trying to get to another point,
right,
you're trying to move past where you've gotten to, then you have to become a new version of yourself a lot of times.
For a lot of people, that's very difficult to do, because you create this identity of what you think people know you do, right? And as we mold that identity and we deepen our roots into that identity, we often associate ourselves with that persona that you just built within that identity, right? But one of the hardest things to do is to reinvent yourself, right?
Wow.
Realizing that success is not predicted on how you got there. It's just about you getting there. I knew very early on that, okay, well, I know car's not going to get me there. Stepping stone to get where I wanted to be. Did I maximize opportunity? Absolutely. I could have just, half-assed it, if I could say that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And not learn anything, but instead I gave it all I had. Right? And within that journey, I learned a lot. And it actually set the stage for what I was going to do next in life.
Ooh, let's turn the page. Let's turn the page. Okay, let's turn the page. So
you got the juice.
Yeah, man, we're getting the juice, man. We squeezing this bad boy. We squeezing this lemon to no juice, to no drops to the left. So let's turn the page a little bit and transition into your next career where you learn to build a business.
Yeah,
right?
So there was something that happened at the dealership, and I don't want to tell you the details, but there was a promotion needed to be had, and I kept my end of the bargain, right, which was sell as much cars as I possibly could, which I did. Management felt otherwise, and later I understood, though. Later I understood why that promotion was not given, because if you have someone in the sales field that's killing it, why would you take that person out of sales? Makes no sense, right? So, but I was too young and naive to understand that. So, I saw that there was the way they conducted business was not in line with what I wanted to do. So I decided to quit, even though it was doing very well, right? And I could have built a career around that, but I did not like it was a distasteful situation that happened. And it pushed me to look for other opportunities, which I was grateful for. In retrospect, during that turmoil, it was horrible. But
it's always bad when we're in it, huh?
Absolutely.
When the seas are rough,
yeah,
it's always nasty. The water hitting your face is nasty. You smell, tasting salt. Boat's about to flip over, and but you laugh about it on the other side.
Yep.
Right. But so let's talk about let's turn the chapter a little bit.
So I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next, and I was going to college part time, and my next door neighbor in my building, apartment building, he saw me one day in a garage or something. He said, "Hey, what are you doing?" Because he always knew I was busy. I was out going to school or working, whatever the case is. And he saw me I think I was washing my car. And he was like, "Aren't you supposed to be somewhere?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm taking some time off school and trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my job situation." And he goes, "Well, why don't you come do mortgages with me?" I was like, "Listen, guy, that's not me. I don't know anything about that." He's like, "Oh, don't worry, I'll teach you." So I saw the same thing happen all over again, right? Okay, this is different. This is different industry, but it's kind of unfolding the same way the first one unfolded, right? So I was like, okay. And somebody told me, "Hey, just listen to him, man, and go check it out." So I drove up to Santa Monica, met with management. I told them straight, I was like, "Hey, listen, I have no experience in what you guys are doing. Matter of fact, to be quite honest with you, I have no idea even how this works. But I could learn, right? And if given opportunity, I'm gonna kill it, right?" And I think that's what kind of tipped them over to give me a shot. And I stayed in that industry for 2 decades, man.
Woo! Something worked out.
Something worked out.
Something worked out.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And just give a couple of stats, because we're in a phase, right? Another phase now.
Right.
But just give over that time span, you've went to do some great things in that field.
Thank you.
Being there 20 years, I mean, great. But just give some folks. I mean, what would you say, like, volume? You were a direct lender?
Yeah.
Like, you own a direct lender business? Okay.
Yeah. So, I learned the ropes, right? And then a company I was working with shut down. They had some issues, licensing issues, regulatory issues too. So they shut down. It kind of forced you to learn. So then I learned the broker side of the business, and the person I was working with, I didn't really think that I would go far with him, because personally he didn't have some values that would align with mine. So I knew that I was going to be short-lived, but I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn how that part of the business works, which I did. Then I went ahead and got my broker's license and got my CFL license, which allowed me to do direct lending. Built a team, built a company. I found my wife.
Yeah,
so
there we go.
She helped build that part of it too, on the administration side. She was fantastic support. Couldn't have done it without her. And then we grew it. We grew it to a direct lending institution. Sold paper on the back end of it, and it was a great ride.
Yeah. Okay. All right, man. Okay. And so that's amazing. And that there's so much to unpack there, but for sake of time, oh my gosh,
there's a lot.
We might do like a part 8 and 12. We might do an 8-part series on this thing to unpack everything that happened in that world. But now in this phase, right? Because we're taking another phase to your career and business and in development and bringing along building nation,
Right.
across the country, like doing that. And in this phase now, in the financial services industry, right? In this range of the financial services industry,
Yeah.
what attracted you to uh, to make a switch from literally in a
Yeah.
an amazing business, right?
Right. Right.
A great field to be in. What was one of the things that kind of tipped the scales to get into the other end of the financial industry,
Yeah.
the financial services aspect?
What's funny is that I spent so much time in the mortgage industry that was my identity for a very, very long time, and up to today, people still don't believe like I'm not doing that. Like, what are you talking about? But um, one thing that plagues the mortgage industry, and whomever's hearing this, maybe you could get some clarity on this, is the cost of scaling the business.
Mm,
Okay, open multiple offices, and as you're scaling, your cost increases, and you don't really know if you're going to recuperate those costs, right?
oof.
Not only is exposure risk pretty high, right, but then you have a upward trends in costs. So I knew that I did not want to do that again. So when I took a look at your business model, I thought it was just genius. I was like, we could, I gotta say us now,
I know,
right?
huh?
Um, we can scale a business and your cost actually decreases, which is insane. Right? Kind of an oxymoron. So that was the financial part of it. I was like, okay, this makes sense. And then what tipped it over for me was how we're helping people.
Mm,
You know what I mean? And the crusade behind that. I kind of fell in love with that, and how it impacts people, and how you can help someone build a legacy, above and beyond just real estate. Right? You can have someone pass on generational wealth, which we could unpack that too when it comes to our community. Um, those are the things that I took a look at, I dissected, and I realized that okay, it was time for me to improve. Once
mm.
again, transform or reinvent yourself in something new.
In doing that, what have you found out about yourself
Oh man.
in this phase of reinvention? Because we were talking, you're like, man, I was about to sail off into the sunset, drive my jeeps off into the woods, and
I was done.
grow a what do they call it? What was that dude on Joe Dirt? What he used to have those oh my gosh, I can't even think about it.
Yeah, I was gonna do all
You
that,
know what I'm
man. Do
saying?
all
Get
that.
his
Do
Joe Dirt
overlanding,
on and
all
do
that,
it,
man. Got the
man.
Jeeps on big wheels, all that, right? So one of the things that kind of reengaged me was a couple of things. One of it is having the urgency of helping other people make money or changing their lives.
Ooh.
Right? I knew that I wasn't done with that. I knew I was not done with that. I really wanted to coach and mentor people and how to change themselves, upgrade their mindset from where they're at and help them be the one in their family to change a legacy. I
Mm,
knew I was not done with that. And I knew that I knew I didn't have the space within the mortgage industry to do that specifically
mm,
because I'm designed for that. So when I saw the platform. I was like, okay, this is great. I can actually do that here, right? Another thing that helped tip the scale was leadership. You know what I mean? You think you know leadership until you see real leadership, right?
hey, we could drop the mic right there.
Right?
You think you know leadership until you see real
You know what I
leadership.
mean? And then it tests you, and when you get that, you either gonna it's actually gonna attract you and make you better, and you want to. It's a humbling experience almost, right? It's a humbling
Mm,
experience, and it's all good because it's gonna make you better. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, not only can I grow and scale, but I have mentorship. That I've done it, that I've stood the times in a business, and they're willing to share their success with you. That's
how
huge.
they did it?
How
What?
did
Wow.
exactly? That's huge. That's nothing. That's something that's not practiced in other businesses. You're taught to kind of hold your trade secrets because you don't want to expose your marketplace for someone else to come and get it.
Mm,
Right? That's very limited thinking. But here, I mean, I could sit down with you and give you my playbook and try to help you do that. That's crazy. It absolutely is, and it's encouraged at the highest level. It's like, oh my gosh, why wouldn't you absorb that?
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. So now we're developing people, right?
Yeah.
Building a business, developing people, it's different, taking somebody that's never had
Different muscle.
a whole different muscle to, it's one thing to do it yourself, but to help other folks come along, it's a self-discovery too. You do a lot of self-discovery doing that.
100%.
And going into, it's 2024 now. It's, we're knee deep in the year already. It already feels like it's June in my eyes.
Time is flying.
Going into this year, there were some things that I know we were talking about as far as scaling business and taking things mentally to another level first, and then implementing.
Yeah.
And giving no excuses and taking none either.
Right.
Right. So what would you say the mentality is in your maniacal sense of urgency?
Right.
Give us some of the mentality going into this year and developing.
Here's what I'll tell you, man. If we had this conversation and I was talking to that 12-year-old who was in Honduras and is dreaming about coming to the USA, that we're going to have this journey and I'll be on this podcast with you now. Come on. You see what I'm saying? Like, it almost doesn't make sense. But what I knew very early on, that I wanted to do something special. Didn't know how. Definitely didn't know I was going to be here right now. Right? Definitely did not know that. But I knew that I stayed focused, and I just want to do something special. And trying to help people achieve that, or give them the hope that that's possible for them. That's what I want to focus on when mentoring and developing people, especially into the new year. Because I think a lot of people today have lost hope, and they're settling, whether that may be, whether you're telling yourself the truth or storytelling yourself, God bless you. But if you really want to be honest with it, most people today are unhappy. They're settled in life, and they think they can't win. But yet we live in the USA.
Literally unlimited options.
You know what I mean? So when I look at that 12-year-old kid who's getting ready to make a move to a different country, I can't understand why someone would settle for that. It doesn't make much sense. So one of my goals is to try to help someone break through that, understand that, expand their vision, look at what's possible, and let's go for it.
Oof, man. It was interesting. I was looking at one of the topics on the in the blog, and it was talking about increasing your capacity versus shrinking your dreams.
100%.
And
the latter is easy. It's easy to shrink your dreams. That's where you settle, right? But you increase your capacity means you're going to get uncomfortable. If you learn something you don't know, you may have to grow, but you have to give something up.
That's the part. That's the part. I think we had an interesting conversation about giving stuff up earlier, which was wild. Oh my goodness! But yeah, you have to. There's an exchange.
Always,
right? There's an exchange, and if it doesn't have to be your soul, by the way. You don't have to exchange your soul and become part of Illuminati or anything like that. But there's an exchange of, maybe it's a little more time you have to spend on developing yourself. Maybe it's it's turning off the Netflix, turning off like 80-year-old guy. It's not like, maybe turning off that TV. Maybe it's reallocating your schedule. For me, it was waking up earlier. Right? It was like, okay, well, I may not be able to add hours at the end of the day, but I know I can increase my capacity at the beginning of the day
100%.
And carve out some time to focus on who I'm becoming. Right.
So, very good point. I think it was Usain Bolt that said, I trained 9 years to run for 9 seconds. Right?
Bars.
So, we live in a society that's instant gratification, right? I want something now. I want it today. I want it fast. And usually those decisions don't align with what you should be doing. Many people don't see it that way, so therefore they're settling into situations that they shouldn't even be in, right? So to your point, you want to make sure that not only you know what you want, but what you're willing to give up for that. Okay, like you said, okay, well maybe I need to cut back on TV. Okay, so you say you cut back 2 hours. Let's just say you're watching TV for 2 hours a day. Let's say you're doing that for 5 days a week. Okay, was that 10 hours? Imagine if you were to say you wanted to go into a different field. Let's say that you're tired at your job. You know that's not a career path for yourself, but you're making excuses that you don't have time to do something else. But you're watching TV for 2 hours a day, or you on Instagram for 2 hours a day, or you are on Facebook, social media, whatever the case may be.
Swiping up.
Right? So if we take mental inventory of our dominant thoughts, but we have to be honest with that, right? You have to look yourself in the mirror. You got to be honest with that.
Oof.
And if you're willing to give something up temporarily to improve your situation, would you do it? Many people are going to say yes right off the bat. Oh yeah, I'll do it. Perhaps they'll do it for a day or two, 3, a week. They don't see the instant result that they thought they were going to see, so they go back to their previous behavior. You see what I'm saying? So make a decision. Yeah, anyone makes a decision. How you manage that decision day in, day out, when you don't see the instant results, it's a much deeper commitment, and you have to really understand why you want to change that. Because if you don't have a deeper commitment, you're not going to do it. That's just plain simple. You know, when we first started talking, one of my driving forces was that I don't want to disappoint my parents. That was my commitment. At 13 years old, it doesn't get much deeper than that. Right? So I knew that very early on, and obviously as you grow, you expand on that, and you have different commitments to your family, to your spouse, to your kids. But you want to be very careful about that, and you want to be truthful. Because if you're telling yourself a story that you want to hear, then you're not going to grow. And I think a lot of us do that. I do that sometimes too. Oh, it's okay. It wasn't you. It wasn't for you. Oh, it's okay. You don't need to do that. And we start rationalizing why we're settling in life.
Did it not work, or did you not work?
Correct. And then what happens, you jump another opportunity, you bring those bad habits somewhere else, you get the same results. And then you have these people that jump from careers to careers, and they're mediocre, right? I'm not trying to insult anybody, but they're mediocre performers. They think, oh, if I just go to this other company, I'm gonna be successful. No, that's not true.
Yeah, because it's never the company.
It's you.
Because companies are made up of people. Okay.
Right.
The companies are made up of people. It's never most of the time. It's the people there.
100%.
Man, that was big. Oh my goodness. There's too much. That's what we're doing. That's why we're doing a couple of these, you guys. And so that's when it comes to leadership. So when you have somebody to be able to bounce these ideas off or bounce these thoughts off to, right? Now you give people an opportunity to help you. Right. Especially if we have somebody mentorship, seeking out mentorship, being open and available for that. Because a lot of folks, man, they not willing to open up.
No. That's all ego. When someone is not being coachable, when someone is not being truthful about their intentions, when they're not intentional about something, that's all ego. Because if someone who has been through the process came out on the other side and is trying to tell you what not to do, the reason why you will not listen to a person is because your ego is bigger than yourself, right? And we all have it. I mean, we all wrestle with ego decision making all the time, but it takes a particular person to say, hey, you know what? Let me rest this ego down for a second. Let me sit back and learn something, because I may not know it all, just maybe, right? Just maybe I'll learn something new. And if you can do that easily, you'll be coachable. Just maybe. But if you really want to make a difference, if you're trying to get into a different field, that's a must. You're not going to succeed if you don't.
Gotta put your ego down.
100%.
Put it to the side.
Leave it at the front door.
Leave it there,
Yeah.
man.
Take it off with your coat jacket. Leave it at the front door.
Oh
Roll
my
up your sleeves
gosh.
and go to work.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love
It's a
it,
humbling
man.
experience. It's a humbling experience.
And that's why we choose growth, right?
Humbling experience,
We
yeah.
choose growth, man, over everything. We choose growth.
The thing with
in all
growth is,
areas.
obviously, you know this because you're in the business, and you appreciate growth. You appreciate you being stretched and your vision being stretched. But a lot of people out there are scared of growth. They're scared of it. You know,
Are they scared of growth, or are they scared of what they have to do to grow?
both. I think perhaps the process is scarier because it makes them someone. It'll transform them into a better version of themselves they're probably not even ready to meet. And that's an identity issue. Now.
Wouldn't recognize.
No, they can't. Or their associations is holding them back. You know, and when you're conflicted on what to do or not to do, you look for confirmation bias.
Oof.
And it's easier for you to just fade away and say, oh, you know what, that sucked, or they don't know what they're doing. I could do it better. Okay, we'll go do it. Let me see how much better you could actually do it. Truth is, you can. But you're telling yourself a story to save face with the people you think care, but no, in reality, you just want to see you succeed. Because now you're going to leave that crew. You're going to outgrow them.
Crabs in a bucket.
Crabs in a bucket.
Oh my goodness, man. Well, shoot. Let's dive into this topic, man. Let's dive into really why we're here. We had to get down to this nitty gritty first. We had to get down to this nitty gritty first, man. So let's dive into your into what we were talking about a little earlier today. Really about not bullshit. But let's dive into it, man. What we were talking about a little earlier. If we can, let's jump this off.
Yeah. Procrastination. You know, I procrastinate. But I'm aware when I'm doing it. Right. I think we all do. Right. We all procrastinate at some point. One of the things that I do is there's a couple of different things, but I'll share one with you. Is I eat my frog in the morning. Right. It might sound disgusting to some people, but what that means is whatever my hardest task is, that's the first thing I'm going to tackle in the morning. Right. And now I'm cruising. Right. I got that monkey off my shoulder. My day is great. I'm good to go. Right. And I think oftentimes what happens is that people do the reverse. They'll keep pushing that rock. And what's happened is we have a mental clock, right? That's going to remind you of that rock you just pushed out. And it's going to come back. Now that forms stress. Now you can't make a decision. Now your day is going so fast you don't know what to do, and you're scared because you know that 3 o'clock you pushed that rock so far out that you don't even know if you have the internal guts to even accomplish that task now. You know, and that internal clock that we have is actually going to come back, and it's going to remind you, minute after minute, hey, you got this to do, you got this to do, you got this to do, and you don't want to do it for whatever reason that may be, right? But I find that if we stop procrastinating, we knock that out first thing in the morning, you're good. So weight off your shoulders. You're good. Now you just made space to be productive. Yeah.
Procrastination.
Yeah. It's
weighs tons.
All the time. You know. So that's one way people sabotage themselves. I also think that it's very important for us to nurture our mind. And I always say, stand guard at the gates of your mind, right? Make sure you have that filter, you know, whatever that may be. If it's you tuned into something not, and you know what's good, you know what's bad. Yeah, people inherently know what that is. You don't need someone to tell you that. You know, you know. Just cut it out. It takes a muscle to do that. Yeah, you develop that willpower, but you know when you're doing something that's not right. No one needs to tell you. You know that. And you may rationalize it. Oh, I didn't know, or I thought it was. You know, you're doing something bad, or at least you know it's not in line with where you're gonna go in life, right? So you know that. So, having said that, you can start making some changes, right? Maybe put the bottle down. Right?
Ooh, not Oban though.
But you know what I mean? Anything that
Yeah.
you're doing in excess that's taken away from your productivity, maybe you
Yeah.
should rethink that.
Mm.
Maybe you should rethink that. And we develop these things that are taking our time and our attention span away from what we should be focusing on.
You said bottle, and it could be anything. It could be, insert
Anything.
whatever,
Yeah.
right? And one of the things that I've realized is replacing a non-productive task with a productive one.
You have to replace it. Otherwise, you're going to go back to that task again.
So not just getting rid of the task,
No.
you have to replace it
Yeah.
with something that's positive.
But to be honest with you, man, one of the easiest things you can do is get into a better group, get into a mastermind, right? And with people that are thriving to be a better version of themselves. And just by proximity, your life is going to change. Just by even if you don't do the crazy stuff they're doing to succeed, right? Let's say that they're just maniacal, right? Let's say they're waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, they're hitting the gym. And even if you don't do any of that, right? Let's say instead of 4, you wake up at 6, where you would normally wake up at 9 o'clock. It's 3 hours earlier. Just that proximity to people at that are vibrating at that frequency is going to make you better. Just by proximity. So it's not as difficult as people think, but it will make you uncomfortable. It will challenge you. But without challenge, there's no growth.
It's interesting you say that vibrating. They just had that, I was actually talking about this a little bit ago, and talk about vibration. It's like the life that we want is vibrating at a certain frequency. So just an example, you guys can see me. So if the life that you want is vibrating at a 90 frequency, but our habits and how we operate is vibrating at a 40%, right? No matter what we do, we're not going to be able to get that 90% life because we're vibrating at 40, right? Now, what we can do is what Bill's talking about is get around more people operating at a 90 vibration.
Correct.
Chances are, or people that are vibrating at 150,
120,
right? 110, 120. Yeah. So inherently being around people that are vibrating around that frequency, your chances are you're not going to bring those people down to a 40. There's a much higher chance of them bringing you up to an 80 to 90 than you bringing all them down to a 40. So changing the association.
It's huge.
Oof.
It's huge. Huge.
And
I'll tell you, because if I, early on, if I didn't associate myself with the person who was giving me an opportunity to get into the mortgage industry, right? If I didn't tap into that vibration, if we keep on the same topic, I wouldn't have made that happen. You know what I mean? Maybe I'll probably be too intimidated by it, right? But you take on a challenge and you associate with those people. And inherently, here's what happens. They want the best for you, which is crazy. The people that are holding you back, they're going to tell you, oh, you shouldn't. Who do you think you are? Or that's not you. You can't achieve that, whatever the case may be. People who are vibrating at a high frequency, they're going to tell you the total opposite. Hey, you could do this. You could be better, right? And that's what you want to surround yourself by. Because, like we just mentioned, just by proximity, you're going to increase your capacity. Increase your capacity.
Game changer.
100%.
Whew. I love it, man. I love it. Man, okay. So, mental wealth with Phil Jeffords. I love it. Mental wealth with Phil Jeffords. I love this, man. And I appreciate you taking some time out today to tell your story a little bit. We're gonna have a lot more topics and conversations about this, and I'm excited about what's to come. Me too. And thank you guys for tapping into this. Phil, appreciate you for coming in, man.
Hey, thank you for the opportunity. Let's do it again. Looking forward to it. Love and appreciate you, man.
Hey, man, no pressure, no diamonds. Let's get it.